A split-second error meant bitter disappointment for the sprinters. This was a transition stage after the Pyrenees that we've just had, finishing in Cahors. But would it be a break? Would it be a sprint? It all depended on the mood of the sprinters. And in a normal year, this would be a breakaway stage. But we've had barely any sprints in this Tour de France. And there's a reason why these guys lug themselves over the Alps and the Pyrenees is to take any opportunity available. So even though it's nearly 200 Ks and there's some lumps and bumps, they'd be trying to control the sprinters' teams. Jonas Vingegaard now with a pretty comfortable lead ahead of the TT tomorrow. But we did see De Koenig Quickstep Alpha Vinyl in the breakaway. Mads Pedersen was feeling a bit crook, so he wouldn't contest, and we saw 5 different teams controlling this very strong break with Pollitt, Honoré, Moritz, Tiger, Van Horn, Simmons. But last year we saw like double, triple the amount in that breakaway, but it's such a strong break. That's why we see Lotto for Ewan, Alpecin for Philipsen, Bike Exchange for Groenewegen, DSM for Dainese, and Total for Sagan. Jumbo-Visma weren't controlling. They got the yellow jersey. Would Tadej Pogacar attack again? I think he was talking to Guru saying, hey, what can you do after yesterday? And I hope Simmons wins the combativity. He's been in the break almost every day for the last week or 2 weeks, and these lumps and bumps just made it hard for the sprinters teams. That's why they kept the gap so tight and caught this break so early. And there were even splits, there were some crosswinds. It was just a difficult stage, and Tadej Pogacar had a mechanical, I think, a puncture, and he was getting back in. You see, he's in the speed suit, so he was going to try something or maybe go for the sprint. Bike Exchange have Nick Schultz on the front, but Pogacar gets back into the convoy. He's only got 3 teammates left, Hirschi, Bjerg, and McNulty, and he gets back to the peloton. No problem. Ineos didn't start pacing or anything like that. And you see these rollers, 1600 meters, 6%. Schultz is probably the best climber on Bike Exchange, so they've got him on the front set of the engines like Bauer or Co. But there's no other real sprint teams controlling at this point. I think Alpecin Phoenix might have used Gurgle, but he's not here anymore. And so some attacks start flying with Gujard first on B&B, who's been quite good this Tour de France. And then Tadej Pogacar, on the back of a Ugo Uhl move, is brought back pretty promptly by Wout van Aert. I mean, like, this pretty low prospects of success in this sort of move with the sprinters and Jumbo-Visma's team strength. And it's Fred Wright kicking hard to the top of that hill. And Jasper Stuyven thinks he's not a bad man to go with. Remember, Fred Wright was in that break with Mads Pedersen on the stage. Pedersen won. They got Gujard ahead, about 11 seconds, maybe 8 seconds at this point. They bridge across to him, and now the sprinters teams have got to get reorganized, but it's still Schultz on the front. Total helping with, I think, Turgis, but no Alpecin at this point. No Lotto Soudal. That takes a while for them to get forward with Guillaume Van Kiersbroek, who's been pacing all day for Jasper Philipsen, who I think is probably the quickest man left, particularly for today with Jakobsen looking visibly pretty tired. But the sprinters team is just running out of numbers. This isn't a well-controlled stage like a stage 2 or 3 in Denmark where they bring the break back easily. They've got 6 men each. This is teams running on fumes at the end of the Tour de France. We see Wout van Aert on the front with the nose in the wind with 8 Ks to go, and Christophe Laporte tucked in behind Tej Benoot, perhaps an indication of what's to come. Or were Jumbo-Visma just trying to keep Jonas Vingegaard safe into the 3 kilometer zone? And the gap is only 10 seconds with 5 Ks to go, closed easily, right? Well, Wout van Aert and Jumbo at this point were just focused on Jonas Vingegaard. It's up to Lotto, it's up to Alps and Total Bike Exchange to bring the gap back. But Lotto, you see, I think is it Frison who goes, but he gaps Vermeersch, and Vingegaard's not going to close it. Laporte's not going to close it. So it's really messy at this point. Everyone, Alpecin and Total, they've got one guy. They don't have 4 guys like a typical pure bunch sprint. And so this gap of 12 seconds, particularly to 3 guys who are working really well in front and who are strong, is extremely difficult to close down and requires all the resources they need. Just about. Fred Wright's been an absolute beast. And here, Jasper Philipsen's 4th wheel, Laporte's 2nd wheel. I presume Philipsen's on Krieger, his last man's wheel. He is going to lose the wheel of his lead-out man through this chicane, and that changes this entire sprint. You see this gap open up here? Philipsen lost that wheel. That means that the Total rider is about to spark it through this chicane and brings Christophe Laporte with him. And it's just the perfect situation that plays out for Christophe Laporte in the last 2 kilometers. Having that happen, the Alpecin De Koenig rider is going to have to realize a bit too late he doesn't have Philipsen on the wheel anymore. Sagan's closing it in the wind. You see Laporte's looking back at this point. He realizes here, I've got a gap to Philipsen. He's got no lead-out man. And his lead-out man realizes, oh no, Philipsen's not on my wheel. So he waits, and that extends the gap. to Christophe Laporte, who's got the Total rider. He says thank you for the lead out, and he's going to bridge across to the break, comes up to them at a rate of knots, but doesn't go past them immediately. He, and this is what wins him the stage, astutely takes a gamble here that they won't be able to shut them down quickly and that the break is still going to be able to give him something and he can sit on them for a bit, because you see Alpecin guys set up and Sagan's not going to close it because that'll ruin his sprint. Philipsen's not going to bridge across. It's DSM with one man for Dainese. Ewan has to wait for Van Rensburg to come forward, but that's too late. The gap's opened up, and so Laporte is basically getting a lead out from the existing breakaway, which was not even the original break of the day. Wright goes clear because Gujard loses the wheel. Sturven then gives Laporte the perfect lead out back to Fred Wright's wheel. And we've got 755 meters to go, and it's just Van Rensburg and sprinters behind him. And they all know if we try and close that gap now, which is, I don't know, a second, 2 seconds, we will ruin our sprint, particularly as this is a little uphill drag. Sturven ruins his own race, bridging Laporte back to right. Laporte kicks. He's not been in the break. He's a bit fresher than those guys at 500 meters to go in this seeded effort. And already we know the stage is already probably won. Philipsen is waiting on the Intermarché rider, I think Christophe, to start his sprint. And even he has to go early at 300 meters to go. And even though there's been no French winner up to this point, the one day Christophe Laporte was freed, although he might have won in the TT, if he hadn't crashed, he was looking very, very good against Lampard. He brings home a French stage win almost at the end of the Tour de France in stage 19. Back-to-back stage wins for Jumbo-Visma. He's been a loyal domestique all Tour de France. Huge win for him. Huge disappointment for Alpecin Phoenix and Philipsen second. But just behind them, jubilation for Van Hooydonk and Wout van Aert, who probably can't believe it that the one day he gets his chance, he takes it. Christophe Laporte winning 1 second ahead of Philipsen and Dainese Seneschal. Pogacar actually sprinted for 50. Take 5 seconds today on Vingegaard. Capio, then Groenewegen, Hofstede, Mezgec, Caleb Ewan rounding out the top 10. Vingegaard goes into the TT tomorrow, 3:21 ahead of Pogacar. That should be a pretty comfortable margin. Thomas also safely in third. Can't move up or down, one would think. So the podium looks pretty much locked. Hope you enjoyed the video today. I'll see you with a recap of the TT tomorrow. Ciao.